shelter superstar Shania Twain from pain and suffering in the public eye. Today, the very private Shania is talking for the first time about the secrets of her past, what she calls the ultimate betrayal, so many of you will be able to relate, by her husband and closest friend, and the crisis that caused her to literally lose her voice. Shania Twain is a pop and country music sensation. In 1993, Shania's star was on the rise when she captured the attention of legendary rock music producer Mutt Lange. They collaborated to create Shania's mega-hit album, A Woman in Me, which sold 12 million copies, turning Shania into the best-selling female country artist of all time. After a 6-month whirlwind romance, Shania and Mutt married. 2 years later, she kicked her career into super high gear with her follow-up album, Come On Over. It became the best-selling album by a female artist ever.
Man, I feel like a woman.
5-time Grammy winner, Shania was on top of the world. Then in 2002, at the height of superstardom, Shania walked away from it all to live a quiet life in her Swiss chateau with Mutt and their young son. 6 years later, heartbreak forced Shania back into the spotlight when her 14-year marriage fell apart, and she said she discovered her husband was having an affair with her closest friend. Shania is putting it all out there. Today is her first television interview in more than 5 years. She's got a new book called From This Moment On, and a provocative new series on OWN that premieres this Sunday night. Please welcome Shania Twain. So good. It's rubbing off on me. Good. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing your first interview in 5 years with me.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for helping me come out of my shell with that.
Yeah. And you, as I just said, beginning this Sunday night on OWN, why not with Shania Twain? Why not? Why not? Open yourself up to life. Why not experience new things? So I was reading the book last night, and I realized that you spent a lot of your life repressing things, a lot of your life not really coming forth with the truth of yourself. And this was a way to start to let it all out.
Yeah.
You also say that your husband's affair made you realize that you were in many ways stuck in your life, that that affair was really the trigger for you. Which,
yeah.
You know,
it was a trigger crisis. It was a very positive thing in that sense. I really needed the wake up.
Mm-hmm.
I needed the wake up call to say, there are a lot of things bothering you in your life. You've had a very extreme life, your age.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe at 42 it was magnified because my mother had died at that age. It was magnified because now I was losing my marriage. And I realized that my voice it had closed up slowly over time.
Mm-hmm.
Physically
emotionally,
manifested itself, closing up. From the very beginning of my life, there was so much violence in our home, and I always learned to not show my fear.
So for the past few months, Shania has been on a soul-searching journey to make peace with her past. Her healing process is the focus of From This Moment On, and also her new docu-series on OWN. And I will say, it's a docu-series, it's not a reality show. Why Not with Shania Twain premieres this Sunday night, May 8th, 11 Eastern, 10 Central on OWN. It's really, I think, your ability to peel back the layers of your life and look at how you got from there to here is going to be so helpful to other people looking at their own. And it begins with Shania and her sister, Carrie Ann, returning to one of their childhood homes. Take a look.
I wanted to share my own experience, going back through my whole life from the beginning. Maybe that will inspire other people. I was here in grade 1, 6 years old. Let's do it. Wow. That was the whole living room. Now there's 6 of us living in here. It's not that bad, really. Now, this was the bedroom for the 4 of us. This just from me onto the stairs. Being a poor kid, I knew how to pretend I wasn't hungry when I was famished, to act like I wasn't cold when I was freezing. These walls, they might be better insulated now, but I can tell you, 23 years ago, it wasn't. And when you don't have heat, it goes off, and you get really cold. It was just the norm. Just like it was the norm for me to not have a lunch. That was our life. There was some violence here. And I can't imagine how anybody even has room to be violent in here.
Though Shania loved her stepfather, she says he was abusive and beat her mother.
The violence in our home, it scared me, it upset me, you know, it was traumatic. You know, when you're little, you don't even really know what's going to happen, so it's really bad.
Yeah.
Well, I started to realize that he could kill her. I remember feeling so helpless and desperate, more for my mom, you know, than anything, because she was the one that was really being tortured and beaten. The house is shaking and is pounding and yelling and screaming and crying, and you don't even know what's happening, and you just wait for it to be over like a bad movie story.
In 1987, when Shania was 22 years old, her parents were killed in a terrible car crash. Her younger brother survived the accident.
I was an 8 to 10 hour car ride away. They explained to me on the phone that they were dead. So if she didn't cry, I probably wouldn't. I'm good at not crying.
Right, try not to do that.
But no, you have to laugh. You know what? You have to laugh when this stuff happens to you. We're not really that bad about crying, but you're worse than I am. And if you didn't cry, I wouldn't. All through my life up until now, I've controlled how I've expressed my emotions. Not because I didn't feel them, I felt them very deeply, but I certainly suppressed how I expressed them. Let's hurry up. I want to start crying because I don't want to cry.
Now, what is interesting to me is that you talk about the violence and your ability to forgive the violence, and what happens to children in homes where parents are violent is after some point you then just begin to accept it. You begin to accept it in some way. And when I read the night your stepfather, whom you call your father, was beating your mother, and you walked in, and she was lying on the floor in front of the toilet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very, very difficult. I was very young. I was still probably only 3 or 4 years old. There were a lot of episodes of violence. That one stood out from many of the others. I think probably because it was the first time I witnessed the violence.
I will never forget that. So I'm sorry I read it, because now that's seared in my memory. Because my heart bled for you as a 4-year-old, and what that does to your psyche. Because even though you can forget the moment and you see them go on and have good times and so forth, in your 4-year-old spirit is implanted this image of him, you know, dunking your mother's head in the toilet.
Yes.
And the thing that stuck with me is that when she came up, there was this piece of toilet paper stuck to her face.
You know, the thing is, when you go through this as a child, I think that moment for me was the moment that I screamed and expressed every bit of suffering and pain and sadness and anger that I had. So I was screaming because I thought she died after I lost my mother at that moment. It was the last time almost I ever did it.
And those of you who have been raised in violent homes or are going through this yourself, you understand that then the next day comes, everybody comes and they sit at the table as though none of that ever happened.
And do you know what else the confusion is at? It's that and when you talk about forgiveness of my father and my parents and all that whole period of my life, I loved my parents. I loved my father. My father was a beautiful man. He took us children in as his own. There were 3 of us girls, and he gave us so much. He worked hard for us. He took care of us the best he could. He always had a great sense of humor. He taught us to laugh. He taught us to carry on and soldier on. He was proud of my singing. He was just a great guy. Everybody loved him.
We'll be right back. Coming up, pain in the spotlight. What happened to that one? Shania talks about the high price of fame. To once and for all clarify if there's anything wrong, I'm very confident that there isn't anything wrong with my vocal